So this is part 2 in our series on building a better employee attrition model. So the most basic question, what is an employee attrition model? Well, it's an equation that looks something like this. And just as a disclaimer, this is a highly simplified example of a turnover model. This is not a model that you would actually deploy. But what an equation like this allows us to do is estimate the turnover risk for any active employee based on that employee's relevant characteristics. So what this equation tells us is that each employee has a baseline risk of 0.2 or 20% chance of turning over. And then for each year that that individual has been with the organization, we subtract 1% from that baseline risk of 20%. And then for each year of that individual's age, we subtract another 0.2% from the baseline risk. So as an example of what this would look like for a hypothetical employee who has a tenure value of 7 and an age of 50, you can see we plug 7 in for the tenure value, 50 in for the age value, and we get a turnover risk of 3% for this specific individual. And by the way, this is typically the turnover risk within the upcoming year. What are the chances of turning over? So how do we arrive at an equation like this? How do we know the value that each component of this equation should take on? Well, you probably know this. We build a turnover equation using data. All the data we can find on individuals within this organization and their work environments, any information on any factor that might help us to predict an individual's propensity to stay with or leave the company. So we look at employee characteristics like age and tenure, as we've seen, but we also look at things like salary, how long the person has been in their position, how far they live from the company, what type of retirement plan are they enrolled in, and we also look at their job experiences. So what's their performance been like recently? Have they had a promotion or a salary increase? Have they had opportunities for professional development? We also look at the characteristics of their work environment. So what's their team size like? How experienced is their manager? And then we also look at local economic conditions. What's the job market looking like for this individual? Once we have all our data compiled in a single modeling data set, we then use data mining algorithms to comb through our potential factors and see which ones are actually useful in predicting turnover risk and how are each of these factors related to turnover risk. Once we've identified our relevant factors and our relevant patterns, we bring all these together in a single equation that allows us to predict turnover risk. And in the next video, we'll see all of the useful things that we can do with this equation.